Currently, the UK government is planning to join a global pledge to reverse losses in the natural world. To do so, the plan is to rebuild 30% of the UK land by 2030. Today, 26% of the UK is protected. However, according to the 2019 Wildlife Trust report, half of them are low effective due to static borders and scattered woodlands. Moreover, the ongoing rewilding projects are prioritizing small wild areas creation over systematic and connective transitions at a large scale. The remaining land is mostly covered by agricultural lands, mainly based on conventional intensive farming. The English rolling landscape has been shaped by the Common Agricultural Policy. It excluded the possibility of integrating tree plantation within crops, separating forestry and agricultural grants. After Brexit, a new agricultural framework has been proposed based on the Environmental Land Management Scheme that finally recognized agroforestry. Particularly, the scheme is divided into Tier 1, that's sustainable agroforestry incentives, Tier 2 on nature recovery, Tier 3 that set environmental landscape goals. However, by interviewing farmers across the Farm Woodland Forum, some barriers were pointed out. Lack of agroforestry knowledge and unclear funding system, clear targets and mapped habitat connectivity, the lack of national vision guided by spatial mapping. CAP and intensive farming have generated serious degradation from different perspectives. Large-scale conventional agriculture based on monoculture crops, increasing levels of soil degradation and erosion with the most tangible consequence set in extreme flooding hazard and loss of biodiversity. Moreover, at a global scale, the current UK land management has consequences in the imports and exports because 55% of the UK agricultural production is for animal feed. This trend of fuel and feed production is common in the global north, as shown in this planetary projection, where food for human production concentrates in the global south. Within this context, rewilding strategies should not depend on the instrumentalization of virtual agriculture from the global south, a new green version of colonialism that waves the flag of global emergency to justify all the operations. These conditions have also resulted in mentalities and cultural constructions that understand its pristine nature and an impenetrable forest that should be preserved in its untouched fragility, in opposition to cultivation and domestication. On the other side, the human footprint relates to productive landscape from concentrated conifer forest, overgrazed grassland to monoculture intensive production. We propose to address wilderness through a new lens where culture and nature are not in opposition. Through a gradient of rewilding actions, the aim is to re-establish a reciprocal relationship between human and non-human processes in alternative productive landscapes based on agroecological schemes. The current UK productive landscape is classified by agricultural land classification. Currently, the physical factors of climate, site, and soil condition form the basis for classifying land into one of 5 grades. Grade 1 to 3 land being of good quality for arable production, grade 4 to 5 land of very poor quality for arable production. This system prioritizes the conventional monoculture production, weakening agroecological integrated actions. Addressing farms' concerns about ERM tiers on spatial mapping, knowledge, and economic support, a national rewilding network is proposed based on agricultural land classification. A gradient of rewilding interventions is proposed to introduce farm quality and ecological sensitivity through spatial planning. A time-based transition is imagined, shaping a new landscape, where grades 4 and 5 relates to Tier 3, sustainable farming. Conventional farming is gradually integrated with low-density trees, wood pasture, and zero arable actions. Where grades 2 and 3 are activated through medium-density trees actions, such as hedgerow creation and repairing river trees. Where grade 1, with the predominance of natural process, proposed higher density trees with sustainable management of woodland and reconnection of scattered natural resources with new woodland creation. The integrated mosaic of interventions would achieve ecological connectivity, maximizing the outcomes, activating Tier 2 local nature recovery and Tier 1 landscape recovery. Farmers are now seen as land managers to re-establish a reciprocal relation between human and non-human process, not only food producers. Various stakeholders have been engaged to frame this complex and controversial context, from farmers to sectoral experts, forums, and organizations. In this context, how can we design an integrated strategy to rebuild the agricultural land in a just transition? How to support farmers and ensure their voices are heard? To propose a policy to foster the expansion of the existing model of agroforestry to challenge the opposition between nature and productive land. Agroforestry can bring benefits to both farmers and the environment. The mixed system between crops or animals and trees can produce more organic substance to improve the soil quality. The roots of the trees can improve the permeability of the soil to mitigate the flooding risk. However, agroforestry occupies just 3% of the UK land. Agroforestry actions are characterized by an average dimension that lasts 1.5 to 50 hectares, less than 20% of each farm, which is caused by the lack of professional knowledge, policy support, and marketplace. During the site visit of the Allerton project in East Anglia, we found out the agroforestry actions only occupy 1%. The barriers for farmers to establish agroforestry in a large scale are the longer time and the higher cost to get balanced profit compared to the conventional farming. Farmers need to wait 10 years to get profit from trees. The farm cluster is a proposal to scale up the agroforestry practices. The existing 118 clusters are trying to create the collaboration among farmers. The farm clusters enable farms to share the fixed cost, tools, and knowledge. Moreover, the collaboration allows them to implement agroforestry at a larger scale through the access to higher grants, giving farmers a voice in the just transition. How will the policy be implemented in the basin to empower the creation of farmer clusters and activate rewilding actions? East Anglia Basin is a prototypical case. The great majority of land is dominated by agricultural land classification grade 2 and 3, with good quality to grow food. Because of this, East Anglia Basin is characterized by an unbalanced proportion of conventional farming based on cereal production. Less than 1% of the basin is dedicated to organic farms. The disconnection of the natural resources from the semi-natural environment becomes evident and is mainly related to scattered broadleaf and mixed woodlands. Moreover, the high risk of flooding in this context is a central issue for both cities and the productive landscapes, threatening different properties. How much agricultural land can be reclaimed for rewilding? The climate change community calculates, following current trends in diet change and food waste, that 21% of the agricultural land by 2035 and 35% by 2050 could be transitioned without outsourcing food from the rest of the world. Which rewilding actions could be implemented? The proposed action is based on the existing ALC. ALC 4 and 5 that are bad for arable could be transitioned into regrade 1 to 3 in percentage of 20 to 25. ALC 2 and 3 that are good for arable could be transitioned into regrade 3, 4, and 5 in percentage of 15 to 20. ALC 1 that is excellent for arable land could be transitioned into regrade 4 and 5 in percentage of 1 to 3. In this context, the priority targets and corridors policy are proposed as part of the rewilding policy to specialize the great actions. In particular, farms from East Anglia Basin would set priority targets such as wildlife connectivity, flooding mitigation, and sustainable food production. From ALC 4 to ALC 1, several iterations are played to create the basin corridors. The proximity to specific targets, such as existing organic farms or natural resources, activating the corridors. Moreover, the relative percentage is calculated per each ALC. The scenarios and the corridor formation are one of the strengths of the project in scaling up individual actions to a national policy level, while giving room and support for a farmer's just transition. A spatial mapping tool will guide the negotiation process between 5 farmers in the basin. The 5 farms are located in ALC 2. The dimensions of their farms are between 60 and 140 hectares, and they mainly cultivated conventional crops, leading to a monoculture landscape. Moreover, extreme flooding causes high damages to their fields every winter. Once set the common issues, farmers could visualize the presence of the related priority targets. Their farms are located mainly within a flooding mitigation corridor. However, Mark and team have parts of their farm within the sustainable farming corridor. The farmers would negotiate between the different priority targets. The cluster will prioritize the flooding mitigation interventions, maintaining a small percentage of them dedicated to sustainable food production target. Once the targets are defined, the next negotiation should address the amount of the land to be transitioned into rewilding actions. According to the policy, they could transition between 50% to 20%, achieving the Tier 2 EIM grants, which is 100 hectares. But which regret actions taking place? The policy gives a range of actions where farmers have the room to negotiate. From regrets 3 to 5, hedgerows, beetle bank, wildflower margins, and agroforestry are the possible actions that could be selected. The GAN tool would visualize the negotiate actions. In the first step, farmers can negotiate and draw the sketch of their plan. In the second step, the tool can provide a plan based on their drawing and show the percentage of each action. In the third step, it will provide a 3D perspective image to help farmers imagine and visualize the rewilded cluster. Farmers could iterate the scenarios until they are satisfied with the outcome. But how would Tom transition his field step by step? We zoom into the field scale to provide Tom a clear knowledge about how to translate his farmland in terms of rewilding actions and grant access in a just way. In this way, we provide a handbook to help him translate into agroecological practices. The first step is to help him analyze the existing condition of his land. The majority of land is growing winter wheat and field beans. There is also 10 hectares of sheep grazing land. The current conventional practices lead to the issue of soil erosion, biodiversity loss, and flooding. Step 2 is about transforming 5% of conventional practices into organic way, which aims to improve the soil fertility to prepare the suitable condition for later rewilding practices. By dividing the big plots into smaller parts, each plot grew different crops, rotating in different years. The process is rather tough for farmers, since the yield is quite low and the food is not recognized as organic, and the existing grants are quite limited. In this way, we propose the higher grants. The next step is from year 4 to 8, including implement regret 2 and 3 actions, like establish beetle banks, build flower margins, hedges, and new woods. The detailed knowledge like plant selection and spatial guideline will also be provided in the handbook. Regret 4 and 5 are now implemented. The silver pasture is set up in the existing grazing land. The walnut trees are planted to increase the porosity of the soil and to create shadows for the grazing animals. Silver arable is established on the wheat field, introducing 3 rows of the apple trees. This system suits a low-density tree planting of around 85 trees per hectare, with a width of 24 meters in between the rows to allow the access of the machine. Engagement actions with the public could take place in this phase. Planting day events would allow the community to be reconnected to the productive landscape. In this stage, the policy would propose higher grants to bridge the gap between the high tree cost and the low yield profits. In this phase, the management of trees is rather significant. In several arable fields, the pruning is necessary to increase the light accessibility for the arable crops. Planting the wildflowers on the story contributes to control the weeds rather than using pesticides. The suggested tree species which are suitable to grow in East Anglia Basin are illustrated to inform Tom. Details of tree management are also illustrated. From year 9, the trees become 100% fruit productivity. Because of the balance between the cost and yield, after this year, the grants become stable. The transition process contributes to improve the soil quality, sequestrate more carbon dioxide, and suck more water during the flooding. This transition also provides the opportunity to engage the local community, like planting trees, picking up fruit, and education visit. In terms of the economic perspective, the process could increase new green jobs. The basin policy becomes a key element. It scales up individual actions to a national level, giving room and support for a farmer's just transition. A time-based process is imagined until 2035, reclaiming 35% of the productive land. The mosaic of integrated actions takes place, establishing connectivity. A new re-established relationship between human and natural process is claimed. Thanks.